Talking with the experts.
Please welcome in episode 275, Fur Wale.
Because you can't get out of that place until you just stop entertaining those thoughts. You've literally got to I like to say, just because it's a really great way to keep it in your mind, swipe left like Tinder on those sort of thoughts. Just get them out of your way. And I like to say, look for a truer truth. Now, you've been living from that second guessing, do I have what it takes? Am I really cut out for this? Am I really as good as I think I am? And we've got to stop that. And because we've been acting as if and living as if that's a truth. And then we've got to come from a truer truth, which is, well, it's possible. It is possible that I'm actually really good at this. Well, let me look at that. Let me explore that instead of just outright telling myself I don't have what it takes. And then
Are you a non-techie, introverted author, speaker, coach, consultant, or entrepreneur wanting to make an impact through podcasting? In 30 days working one-on-one with you, I can show you how to build authority and credibility for your business. I'm inviting you to shift your thoughts about podcasting and allow yourself to expand into the next level of your life and business by joining the Podcast Wizard 30-day program as I help you take your podcast from idea to launch. Find it at rose-davidson.com under the Work With Me tab.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And I'd like to ask you, as a woman, do you feel confident in yourself? Do you have all this self-trust that you really need to succeed in business? Well, my next guest, Fur Wale, is just going to discuss that with us today. And Fur empowers individuals through neurocognitive strategies to build the mindset of an authentically present, confident and credible speaker that lasts all of a lifetime, able to captivate their listeners no matter who they are, anytime and anywhere. Fur is a very successful businesswoman. She runs She Talks, and I've been following her for a little while now. And so welcome, Fur, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Rose, it's just wonderful to be here with you, honestly.
So tell me about building confidence as a woman.
Yeah, women often have something in their way, which you mentioned, which is we can tend to not trust ourselves. And we've sort of got a whole history of taking the back seat, being polite, letting others shine. And even if we didn't grow up in that era where we were directly told that, for some reason, I find that most women have that in their way. So we're kind of don't really step into the confidence that I believe we were born with. Rose, I believe we were all born confident.
Yeah, I think it's in my mind, it's eroded through childhood.
Yes.
Most often, we don't get the praise that we need. We don't get the recognition. We don't get a lot of things that build or help us to build our confidence as we grow up. And then you get to puberty, and by that time it's difficult enough to be confident in yourself without all these other outside pressures.
Oh my gosh, it's huge. Once you leave home, it's huge. And if you're not already set up, then you're kind of already in trouble. Look, I didn't have the issue where I wasn't sure of myself, right? I had parents who are amazing, and myself and my two brothers, we all got to be really authentic. We weren't cookie style cutter kids where we all had to sort of be the same. We were really dynamically different, and my parents fostered that. And I had a voice. But then when I got into the world, I suddenly realized that the world might not necessarily want a woman to be so opinionated, which I thought was crazy, because you've got, I mean, and I'm not being, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that, or say that there's a big issue here, but there is something about when women speak, there's this kind of thing about how long is she going to speak for? Is she going to go on forever? Why is she so opinionated? And yet a male, look, I'm just being really general, but generally a male can get up on the soapbox and it's really fine. And so I had that experience myself, and I couldn't understand why people wanted me to, be less opinionated.
Yeah, I had the very same experience. I used to work for a law enforcement agency some time ago, and they weren't prepared for me at all. Even though I didn't have a lot of self-trust, I guess, I was opinionated, and if I didn't like something, I'd let the world know about it. I think that's because I had to grow up, rather quickly, and I had to find my place in the world. And so it was thing, but I was quite often told to be more feminine and, toe the line, toe the company line, toe the union line, toe this line, I thought, I could never understand the division between men and women. Why couldn't women be treated the same? To me, it was totally crazy.
It is crazy. And I think it's just because some of those systems are still quite archaic and people can't help it, but they get stuck in someone else's opinion. And I have a really quick, beautiful example. My uncle has a son who lived at home, and he came out and said he was gay. Now, my uncle, my dad's brother, was raised in a highly religious family, very, very strict. They were Seventh-day Adventist. And when my cousin came out to his dad, who was the cool kid and rebelled against his parents and the religion, he actually turned around and said, "You heathen." And it took him about a week, I believe, before he actually clicked that he was just in some other person's mind, like their opinion. That's what he grew up with. That's what he was indoctrinated with and conditioned with. And it actually came out of his mouth. And, that's just one example that I've come across.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah. So that's the world we live in. They're the barriers that we can face. And I truly believe that what's more important is that we overcome our own biases, those things that other people have told us that we can and can't do, shouldn't do, what's possible and not possible for us. And that's a real challenge. You have to have a certain mindset for that. And you do need certain strategies. But to be truly confident and successful, you've got to find not just someone else's strategy. Again, you don't want to take on someone else's opinion. You want to find a strategy that's right for you. Now, we know that there's tons of time management strategies around putting structure around your business and your time. However, they don't always work for everyone because we're all fairly unique in how we got to this place of not being able to manage our time or not being able to put structure in place, or things like procrastination, etc. They're quite specific, like the underlying trigger and cause is really unique to us. So we really need to stop adopting other people's strategies and then just trying to make them fit or trying to make us fit, and actually find the strategies that works for us. And that has been my entire life journey, whereas I'm like you. I had to grow up fast. I ended up losing my mum and my dad, and I ran my home at 16, my brothers, when my dad was still alive, getting them to work. And then I realised that it was just up to me. And, when you've had a big trauma and you just feel like all your trust is gone, all of those things you believed in, you're not sure if they're worthy of believing in anymore. So what I did, which now when I look back on it, it's pretty clever, I decided to decide what I would believe and how I would live my life. And it served me greatly. And that's what I do now for women, just to get them out of that matrix of thinking that's out there in the world and all that conditioning and just what we've absorbed about what we can and can't, should and shouldn't, and what's possible. and not possible.
Yeah, I know a lot of women in, business women have, I guess, a lot of self-doubt. They second guess themselves quite often. I have a lady that I know. She is a terrific businesswoman, but she's always second guessing herself, whether, is she a good mum? Is she a good businesswoman? Is she a good wife? And she's all of those things, but, she gets in something gets into her head, and, she gets some negative feedback from, or she hears something that's, a little bit negative, and she takes it on herself. And unfortunately, it doesn't serve her to do that. And I know a lot of women are in that same position because I don't know if it's whether the way that they've been brought up, or the way they live their life, or I'm not really sure how, why do we keep taking on board all this stuff when it's not ours to take on?
And ultimately, I mean, it's good to look at why those things happen, but I really believe ultimately it doesn't matter. Ultimately, I mean, we're not designed for success. We're actually designed to keep safe. We know that. And then, so when you're in this second guessing, you're in the survival centers of your mind. Your nervous system is on alert, and you're just going to continue to be in that place, looking for, scanning the environment and yourself for what's wrong, what's not working. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? And it's usually going to be draw back into your comfort zone, don't take that risk. And this is where most people are trying to be successful. That's their starting point for trying to succeed at whatever matters to them. And it's no wonder that then they're feeling stuck, or in self-doubt, or overwhelmed, or even fearful, because you can't get out of that place until you just stop entertaining those thoughts. You've literally got to just, I like to say, just because it's a really great way to keep it in your mind, swipe left like Tinder on those sort of thoughts. Just get them out of your way. And I like to say, look for a truer truth. Now, you've been living from that second guessing, do I have what it takes? Am I really cut out for this? Am I really as good as I think I am? And we've got to stop that. And we've got to, because we've been acting as if and living as if that's a truth. And then we've got to come from a truer truth, which is, well, it's possible. It is possible that I'm actually really good at this. Well, let me look at that. Let me explore that instead of just outright telling myself I don't have what it takes. And then when you've got a different what if you haven't got the negative what if I fail, what if I suck, then if you've got a what if I succeed, now what you're doing is you've set yourself up to look for all the good and everything that's working. And now you're in a way, you're in possibility. You're tapped into your potential. You have more access to your potential and your wisdom, and you have more access to possibility.
Yeah, a lot of women, that they want to leave their corporate job and, start their own business because they know that they've got something to offer, the world in general. And, a lot of the times they get family, friends saying, what are you going to leave your corporate job? You're being paid so much good money. Why would you want to go and do it and work for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think that's where the self-doubt and imposter syndrome comes from, because you've got those closest to you being negative before you've even started.
It's fearful because we have a society or a system that we're so dependent on having security and money, and that's totally understandable. But so that makes it really hard. And then you've got people who you kind of respect and look up to, perhaps saying, are you sure? And even if you're sure, that doubt starts to creep in. But, it's soul destroying, not living the life that you want to live, to at least try. Maybe don't give up the corporate job, but at least, and I know we're all a bit time poor, but to at least start to look in another direction and explore that, at least look at it and entertain it as an idea, get it, see how you feel about it so that you can there's something about fear, actually. When we dream, There's REM sleep. Is it REM? Yeah, it's REM sleep. And during REM sleep, the hormone for fear is not triggered. So sleep is actually the time that we are having those dreams, and we're literally processing what it might be like to get up on a stage and speak, what it might be like to leave the corporate job and start your own business. And it's interesting because the amygdala hasn't been triggered, we're not having the fear hormone, we're not in the survival mechanism, we can actually get comfortable with that. Now, knowing that, we now understand why visualization is so powerful. So that's what I meant by looking at it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about She Talks and how you started, and and what it's about.
Yeah, look, I'm a public speaker. I got roped to, well, actually, let me backtrack a little bit. I started out doing a lot of theatre. I grew up quite as a fearless child, and I did a lot of theatre, and I had my own radio show, and I've always been in the world of performance, behind the camera, in front of the camera. And then I got asked to do public speaking gigs. So, for example, Lights Out, Earth Hour, Homelessness Week. So the city of Port Phillip were putting me up on a big stage in front of, like, the largest audience was 1,000 people, with the mayor and all sorts of dignitaries. And of course, I was delivering facts and figures and stories from people in the community that I'd gone and interviewed. That was great, and I loved it, but it wasn't my story. And so I started sharing my story, and that's when I really hit a place where I felt really nervous and anxious. And so I went and had a look about training. And then what I discovered was they wanted me to fake it because the audience wouldn't know any better. They wanted me to look over the tops of heads. They wanted me to pitch the audience naked, which I thought was a real disservice and really, really inauthentic. And of course, my big thing is about being authentic, bringing every piece of you into full self-expression so that you can feel congruent, because it's when you're congruent is where you start to really nurture your self-trust and confidence. Like it's a space where you're now free to not only express yourself, but you feel like you can trust yourself and your journey. And so I wanted to share what I discovered in not finding that in other places and discovering it for myself. I want to share that with other women. And I didn't really particularly want to start a business, but I had a coach and they said, come on, what are you going to do? Pick one. They pushed a piece of paper over. I took the pen. I wrote women, public speaking. I put it back and I said, hang on a minute, what did I actually write? And my coach said, you're going to be setting up a business where you're going to train women in public speaking. And I went, okay. And that's truly how it started. But don't think there was no passion in it. I am totally 1,000% passionate about this because I want nothing more for women to be liberated, like having come from sexual abuse and physical abuse as well in my youth. I can't think of a better way for women to bring all the parts of themselves together and feel like they're back home again in their body, and to express themselves out there in the world without worrying about what bias is out there, and then to share the messages that matter to them. And I mean, live their true purpose. So I'm all about creating fearless leaders. So that's what She Talks is.
Yeah, I've been following it for a little while now, and to see the women that come out of the training that you offer, it's amazing. Just so much confidence, and the change in them is like night and day almost.
It is night and day, and I'm telling you, it doesn't take long to realize. In fact, I can spend 1 hour with someone and they will know. They'll walk away knowing that they're confident, whereas before they would have anxiety and outright fear. Actually, I did, I haven't been able to do it since lockdown. I've got a beautiful big event where I train 6 women who are absolutely fearful, like don't even want to, like nervous, shaking, don't even want to go near the stage or even think about it. And I trained them over 6 months and put them on a stage in front of a large audience, and they were confident and beautiful. And it was, it's TEDx style talking, standing in one spot, and they'll deliver for 20 minutes. And it, honestly, the last event was so powerful. In Melbourne, we don't normally get standing ovations where people stand up and clap, but after each speaker, the audience just, they couldn't help themselves. They kept standing up and clapping, and at the end they just stood and kept clapping for about 3 minutes, I'm told. Yeah, so
Wow, that's wonderful.
really powerful. But can you imagine that you can finally disappear what's in your way from, you know, self-expressing yourself and being your kind of success? And I mean, that translates not just for you in your business, that just ripples on through your family, through all your relationships, and then the people that you go on and inspire, motivate, transform.
Yeah, it's something that we all need, you know, male and female. There's just there's not enough of connection, I don't think, through discussion. It's unfortunate, but you know, the world is separated too much these days. It's not as like it used to be. But anyway, hopefully we'll come back to that.
And I agree wholeheartedly that men need this too. And I did register He Talks because I got a lot of requests for He Talks. I don't know. I just want to keep working with women for a while longer. And I was hoping maybe someone else would start up something similar for men. But I will by the end of this year start He Talks for men. Yeah.
Terrific.
Being authentic and being fully congruent and self-expressed.
Absolutely. It's a much needed skill, I think. Tell me a little bit about your books, Fur.
Oh, are they here? Oh, yeah, it is. I hope this isn't my grubby one. Yeah, it is a little grubby. These, I've got 2 co-authored books. One's just coming out. This one is, I was asked to write a chapter in Fierce and Fabulous, The Feminine Force of Success. Tanya Dijon's in this and other well-known women in business. And it's just really about that one's about going from trying to survive in life to thriving by choice, and pretty much saying you can do it too. So I have a saying in there, which is no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've experienced, you absolutely can live the life of your dreams. It just takes effort and not giving up. So that's that one. And then in the second one, it's actually a health and wellbeing book, but I am a qualified naturopath back in the day. And I love to talk about mindset in regards to health. And I've overcome more than 2 major health issues where my prognosis was not good. The last prognosis, I was told that I'd end up in a wheelchair and disabled with my bones dissolving due to an autoimmune condition I discovered that I have. And yes, during lockdown, when I couldn't get things like medicinal mushrooms and supplements, I did end up back in chronic pain and inflammation and bedridden. But it was a great demonstration to me of how much mindset and nutrition can absolutely get us back into balance again. Now, it's not about having perfect health or ideal health or getting back what you had in your youth, but it's about getting that beautiful balance where you can have a quality of life mentally and physically. Yeah,
I agree. I'm still searching for some sort of magic pill to get rid of my chronic pain. So
we should talk after.
I was hoping that we could.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about where people can find you, Fur, if they would like to work with you.
Where can't you find me? I'm all over social media. You'll find, actually, it's mostly She Talks, but then it's She Talks Public Speaking. And then I've got private groups, which is the Confident Speaker and the Credible Speaker. But know that I don't just do public speaking. That's the tool. Public speaking skills and public speaking mindset are the skills and tools. But where I start is with the foundation of disappearing blocks. So wherever you're stuck, procrastination, fear, overwhelm, worry, all of that, we move that out of the way, and then getting you having an unshakable foundation where you absolutely know that you're confident, worthy, whole, abundant, all of that. So you can find me also at info@shetalks.com.au. Please forgive my website. It's partly beautiful, but it's also partly in transition. So a little bit of old information in there. Yeah.
What have you got coming up for the rest of the year? Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so May the 29th, I've got Next Level Woman 22, meaning the year 2022, and that's about awakening your potential. So it's about disappearing blocks. I guarantee you'll disappear a block. I run those each month now by popular demand. I used to only run them January and February, and now since lockdown, people want this. They want to work on getting rid of a block. They want to get clarity, put structure around their year, make beautiful connections, etc. They run monthly. I've got Learn and Practice, which is for people who want to have more confidence and practice speaking. It is online. You'll make major breakthroughs with that. I've got the Credible Speaker, and then I have a bunch of events. But honestly, I do more than that. I do a workshop, or at least I did when we were having in-person events more. Meet Mr. Right, and I talk about human behaviour, and then I take the women out to the bar and we get to put it into action, that looking for the signals of interest and knowing if he's Mr. Right now or Mr. Right for you.
Yeah, a friend of mine, she's got something very similar.
Has she? Yeah.
Yeah, so she's in Adelaide. Yes, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fascinating too. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be suitable for me, but yeah, for single ladies, yes, you go for it. Doesn't matter what age you are. You got to find Mr. Right, not Mr. Right now.
It's empowering for women to know that they can read the cues and they know how to carry the conversation on and move a conversation from small talk to bigger talk, without. And also how to find out if he's into you by asking certain questions that don't leave you feeling like you're asking too big questions too quick.
Yeah, there's nothing like feeling icky when you've asked a question and you get that look. So have you got anything that you'd like to share, some tidbits, some, words of wisdom, or just something that, you'd like to share?
I just want to reiterate, consciously decide to bring all parts of yourself together. And you might not need to think about what that means, Are you fully expressed in all different areas of your life? And then turn up the dial of your authenticity in those areas. And when you bring all of those pieces back, it's like an invitation home, and you will have such beautiful congruence that you're just going to fall in love with yourself. That trust that you have for yourself will be a beautiful foundation. It'll actually, you won't doubt yourself like you used to. It's just a beautiful place. And look for the truer truth every time. So instead of saying, what if I can't? What if I can? What if it's possible? So find the right strategies, get the right mindset, know that it takes practice, and it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
That is absolutely brilliant information, tip, hint, whatever you want to call it. It's fabulous. Thanks, Fur. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Rose, it's so wonderful. And I look forward to speaking to you after. See if I can help in any way with your help.
Thanks so much. You have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye, Rose.
Bye.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.